Hi folks, Puffin Loki here. That is Puffin Loki, the Puffin version of the popular Loki character from Asgard and the Marvel Universe. Or Loki Puffin, the Loki version of the popular Puffin character from video games and the internet. Just coming to you in my Loki Puffin incarnation. Because I saw the last documentary about the Loki TV show starring Tom Hiddleston, and he was very into the role. He had a great comment about how when he went out to the Comic-Con as Loki in character, or when Loki went out to the Comic-Con in Tom Hiddleston, he got a great reception. It was a great feeling. The Loki show itself has emphasized how many Lokis appear in how many different forms. Spoiler alert, lots. People get into things without necessarily knowing what they're getting into, and it's wonderful and magical and fantastic and exciting. There are more Lokis than you know, and the god of mischief, as Loki is known, or goddess of mischief, as she is known in the Sylvie character in the show, takes on many different forms. Now, of course, when you tell a story, you focus on certain forms. And it was interesting to watch the documentary. The series is entertaining and great. I fully enjoyed the series Loki on Disney Plus. I hope you'll watch it too, if you can, or find some way to watch it. There's also a documentary about the making of it that they just showed, and I just watched. And it had some interesting things in it. It reminds you, when you tell a story, you can tell what you know. You can make stuff up. Making stuff up is one of the best ways to tell a story. You can make up new stuff. So they're very proud that they've taken the Marvel Universe in a new direction, or opened up a new chapter. And I was actually impressed. I'm a Spider-Man fan, and I like some independent comics and manga and stuff. And Flaming Carrot. I like Spider-Man, though, from the Marvel Universe, so I'm not as familiar with all the characters in the Avengers storyline and worlds. But Kang is the character, spoiler alert for your comic people, Kang is the character that they're preventing the arisal of by leaving He Who Remains in place. Apparently, He Who Remains is a variant of Kang, or vice versa. Here's the thing about time travel, mystical stories. The worst people in the world are going to take mystical information and mislead you with it. Those are the worst people. People who want to tell you that, Trump is good or something like that. Those are the worst people in the world. They maybe even have some mystical information. They probably don't. They probably don't have any mystical information, but they present some information as if it's mystical information and mislead you. They're the worst. Or they have some mystical information, but they misrepresent it to people in order to take advantage of them. They're the worst. Now, the interesting thing about Loki, about the character, about gods and such, gods and goddesses like this, is the mystical world is mysterious. If you naturally misrepresent it, it's so mysterious and magical and whatever that it's hard to represent. Like, great representations of the mystical world are, what lasts with humanity forever, like, Buddhism or Jesus, or, various things that are mystical and well presented for people are, the most eternal things that we know. Great art, great music is like this. It's the most eternal stuff we know. We know the taste of what this is like. And there's so much of it. We don't have to rule things out, except for things that are misrepresented, things that are misleading. Now, some things, again, are misleading because it's so mystical, because the mystical is so unknowable in normal states, or our reduced state, you could call it, than to translate the mystical to normal awareness and help people move from more normal awareness to the mystical awareness with great art, great music, great words, is a type of magic. And it's like it's like becoming a deity, a goddess or a god. You can make that journey to the mystical and back and be a good goddess or you can make that journey to the mystical and back and become a bad god, bad goddess. That's the thing here, is we're following kind of the Loki that we know, played by Tom Hiddleston, and even the storytellers of the Loki story. They kind of paint themselves into a picture, kind of paint themselves into a corner of a picture that they've created that includes, violence and overthrow and these types of ideas. Was there the consideration of changing he who remains instead of destroying him? Was there the consideration of joining in that transformation, that mutual transformation? Because the great thing about the story is it's about self-transformation, self-love, self-acceptance. Does he who remains find that? He who remains believes he has to stay in power to prevent a worse version of himself from arising. It's an analogy to a story that we hear a lot in America. We can't afford to risk what we really want, Bernie. We have to stick with the safe choice of Biden, something to the center, to, as long as we can avoid the danger of Trump. Let's hold space for the next evil person to come, or let's postpone the next evil person because we know the next evil person is coming. That's the whole Kang, he who remains dynamic. And they're teaching it to us in this story. Now, again, not intentionally. They're not intentionally misleading us about mystical. These people are well-intentioned because they told a great story. They did great acting. They did great directing. They did great costumes. They did great lighting, great sets. Everything's great in that story. They did a great job. I did my previous video about how they express CRT or critical race theory types of views about how you have to unlearn white supremacy in the episode where they're teaching people to unlearn being in the TVA. It's great principles. But again, you paint yourself into a corner with things you don't even realize. You open up magical things you didn't even know you were going to have, like a Loki alligator, and you close yourself off in magical ways you didn't even anticipate by, well, what's the final conflict going to be? Does it have to be a final conflict? Now, of course, they're setting up a story to introduce Kang. It's all setting up a worse overlord, if you've seen the hint of the very last scene of the show, that the worse overlord is coming. Why do we have to go from bad to worse? The choice of between the lesser of two evils is still choosing evil, as I think Jerry Garcia and some other people have said in different ways. We can choose good, but good is radically different. So I don't know that I'm necessarily Team Sylvia, kill him, replace him, or I don't even know what the plan was there. I don't know if they fully developed the plan and the plot of the show. Still a great show. Still great to introduce these ideas. But one great idea is introduced is that anyone can be Loki. Now, when you get to the other side of that, and how Loki was so happy to be on that stage at Comic-Con, well, you'll have different people doing different Lokis, and they'll have radically different personalities and angles on it. Puffin Loki is what you got here. That there is a better way to approach the mystical and bring it back to the ordinary, using mischief, using fun and humor, using theatrics, using drama, that is kind and friendly and loving. And honestly, in my case, sometimes mean, but I regret that part. I would like to refine that meanness away and say, I want to rewrite my story without the conflict, without the meanness, with even more mischief, with even more trickery and humor and the unexpected. Watch the George Burns and Gracie Allen show. Gracie Allen has got the trickery and the unexpected and this turning things around and inside out. That is the essence of humor. I know this isn't very funny. Sorry. But I think it's important. I just wanted to respond to that documentary because of the important ideas of anyone can be Loki. What does it make you when you are? What does your personality do to that journey to the mystical to bring it back to the ordinary? Because anyone who makes that journey, you're going to both make mistakes, there's going to be some chaos involved, and there's going to be grace and the divine involved. So I encourage you to do it, whether it's through meditation or following other spiritual teachings and practices, be they music or writing, poetry, your own writing, but other writings, spiritual teachings, various practices, just paying attention to nature or making love and being in love and having relationships with people, caring about the way you talk and what you do. All of these things can bring you more into the mystical. Anything that you do with the intention of it being more mystical will be more mystical. And then there's some things that are more like shortcuts, fast tracks to it, if you can do those things. So nature is a great one. Love is a great one if you have that opportunity. Psychedelics, herb especially, is just a very gentle, if you just smoke a little bit to get started. Don't think that eating it is safer because it's, anyway, smoke a little bit to get started. It's the psychedelic magical world, and it's gentle and good and easy in a lot of ways, and there's a whole lot to it, so that it is difficult and complicated, and you do make mistakes or create this chaos or become a Loki type character by trying to transmit the divine to the human and trying to help the human reach the divine. But it's something we all can do. Anyone can be a Loki. Anyone can be a Thor, I guess, if you've got the muscles for it, or the hairdo, whatever it is. Anyone can be a Spider-Man. You don't need a radioactive spider to have the great responsibility that comes with great power, because you have great power even if you haven't discovered it. The radioactive spider is a symbol for how that great power can be. Here, radioactive spider, bow, gotcha. It's like a symbol for how your own powers can be activated. So you're free to be activated, free to activate yourself. And I think that's a great thing about Loki, that whether they knew it or not, they're teaching people. And there's other good things in there too. And it can be better. But again, I don't know the whole Kang story, so you're setting that up. The problem I have with it is this idea that there's always someone worse waiting to take over. We don't need to accept a bad system to prevent a worse system. We can always be making a better system. And the idea that, setting a timeline and things have to be a certain way, that's kind of old. It's kind of played out. So we can have new ideas where, wow, no one ever thought it was going to be like this. That happens sometimes, like more accidentally than you think. But it can happen intentionally. We can say, hey, we know we're going to do things that no one's ever expected to happen, and make them happen. We can make everything free. We can make everyone happy and healthy. Like, yeah, it hasn't happened before, but we can make it happen now. And it takes a chaotic and magical, godlike transformation, which we all can do. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing, commenting, and playing whatever Loki part you play. This has been Puffin Loki. Have a great day.